Sure. So I am the founder of NL Moving. It is a moving company. I move in household goods. But my background is definitely entrepreneurship. As of right now, the only thing that my main thing that I'm working on is NL Moving. Been in business for 6 years now. Started from literally scratch, and worked myself up to having a fleet of trucks. So and a fleet of many employees. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how would you, so yeah, you're basically the definition of an entrepreneur, right?
Without a
Start
doubt.
starting from scratch. And I feel like there's so many different definitions of what entrepreneurship is. Um, so I'm wondering if you could just give your personal definition of what you think an entrepreneur is, or maybe entrepreneurship, uh, by itself.
So I think many people have the definition of entrepreneurship or entrepreneur. I think they have it twisted a lot, and the reason is because many people, and especially young kids, they see all the glamour that entrepreneurs like to show and like to lie and like to fake it. But I don't think that that's the true definition of entrepreneur. Me as an entrepreneur, I have, ever since high school, I knew that something was different from me. As far back as just small, simple things like not sitting at the table with all my best friends were sitting at. So I would just go pull up a table by myself near them where I could talk with them, but I could be by myself. Just weird things like that. Weird things like even join now, not to discourage anyone looking into going to the service, any service, as far as the Army, the Navy, or the Marines. I definitely agree with them. If you want to go in that aspect, more power to you. Definitely pay for many benefits, right? But I don't want to chase the rabbit. But I didn't want to join the Army because I didn't want to wear the same outfit as everyone was wearing on a daily basis. Um, and you can even take it as far as going into jail or going into prison. If someone has that entrepreneur spirit in them, going to jail or going to prison is like the same as going to the Army or ROTC. You're going to wear the same exact thing as the crowd is. Everyone's wearing the same stuff, and that's how you're going to be. And with me, that didn't sit well. I could never. I didn't want to be labeled in that category as a sheep. So
So kind of your definition of an entrepreneurship or entrepreneur is kind of just being a leader.
kind of being a leader, someone that is thinking different, someone that can think, that can strategize, and that can execute a plan. Someone with with an entrepreneurial background is someone that's going to need to be able to draw up a plan with all these action steps, and that way they can build the company that they want to build.
Yeah. So here's kind of a weird question. Can someone be an entrepreneur or have entrepreneurial characteristics while still working like a 9 to 5 job?
Absolutely. And the biggest reason why I would say yes is because you just can't. What a lot of people like to do is like to jump and like I'm going to go all in and I'm just going to make $1 million. For the person that has entrepreneurial skills or tendencies and wants and desires, for them to have the 9 to 5 job to get them to get enough capital build up, to get enough credit to build up. That way, they are able to eventually one day go all in to their plans.
Cool. So you mentioned that NL Moving started, did it start 5 or 6 years ago?
6 years ago.
Nice. Yeah, congrats on that. Um,
Thanks.
and,
Thanks.
and so when you're giving that description, you mentioned that you started it from scratch, and I'm not exactly sure what do you mean by that?
So yeah, definitely. I was working a 9 to 5 job, miserable, miserably. I loved what I did. Just the thing was, it's like I was always asking myself, well, what if? How can I make more money? how can I do this? How can I do? That's always that's how my mind is wired. So that's all I think
So this video
about.
is for the Transition Academy at Goodman Community
Okay.
Center, and some of the teens that we work with oftentimes say, "I don't know what I want." Like I'll ask them questions like, "What's your dream job? Like what do you really want in life?" And sometimes they say like, I just don't know." And so you mentioned that your mentor has helped you understand what you want in your life. So what is the difference between knowing what you want in life and pursuing it, or not knowing and kind of just going with the flow?
I think there's a few first steps there. The first step's going to be, are you willing to take the time to write this down or to even think about it? And I think a lot of people struggle, especially with entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs struggle, is that they feel that they need to do so much that they don't have time for anything. So when someone's trying to build a business, or even before even building a business, they're we're so busy. We're a very busy people, and no one takes the time to think about exactly what specifically they want in life. That is the first one. The second one, not only do people not only do people choose not to spend time thinking about it, people choose not to write it down, and that way they can have a clear vision of what they want in life. But you're right, no one knows what they want, and for those reasons. And one thing that I'm in the middle of right now, and as I told you, NL Movement's my main focus. But another thing that we have going on is we're building a program to help people to to find out what exactly they want.
Yeah, could you maybe touch a little bit more about that? What does that look like?
Sure. So let's just say um, there's certain key areas of our lives that we have to feed. And what I mean by feed is like spend time in, as in like one of the key areas in our lives is contribution. Like contributions from 5 years from now, what are my contributions going to be like? Am I going to be volunteering my time, giving my time to organizations to helping people? Am I going to contribute to the church? And what specifically does that look like? How is my contributions going to be for the church in 5 years? Well, I'd like to be able to sponsor a kids summer camp. Maybe my wife and I are able to fully sponsor a whole youth group to go spend a week at summer camp. Like, what specifically are my contributions going to be like in 5 years? Or self-development. Self-development is another key area of our lives. What am I going to do for 5 years from now in my self-development? Am I going to be going to conferences? Am I going to be mentoring others? Am I going to be, what books am I going to be reading 5 years from now? How does that look like? What specific author am I going to be following on books, podcasts, YouTube channel? Like what other knowledge? What other ways am I able to gather knowledge for myself?
Cool. Um, so so right now in your life, what are some habits that you personally have that you think has helped elevate your game on a personal level?
So good question, and that's another thing about speaking about goals and whatnot. Because I'm sorry, Pablo, I feel a sneeze coming on, but
You're good. We're rolling with the punches.
but excuse me. So like, yeah, you have to ask certain specific questions about what 5 years is looking like for you. Like 5 years from now, what new skills am I gonna have learned to get that's gonna help me get to my destination? So some of the habits that I'm picking up now and that I'm learning on a consistent basis is my morning process. How does my morning process look like? My morning process consists of stretching. of 20 minutes of meditation, 20 minutes of reading, 20 minutes of journaling, and then 20 minutes well, I read 20 minutes of reading spiritually in my Bible, and then I'll journal about that, and then I'll read 20 minutes in the self-development book that I'm currently reading, and then I will journal after reading that as well. But these are new habits that I'm learning. That once I master these habits, they're gonna take me to the next level where I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Um,
these are new skills that you have to learn. No one's gonna teach you these things. You have to search them, and first of all, it all depends on what do you want in life. Now, the this video is targeted to 14 through 17-year-old kids. So it's like, have you even, and this is asking the kids, have you even thought about the next 20 years and where you want to be at? Because no matter what, even though you're 14 years old and you can't still see it, but at least think about it. Like 20 years from now, what kind of house am I going to be living in? 20 years from now, here's a good one. Where do I want my kids going to school at? Do I want them going to Chicago in public schools, or do I want them to go to a suburb out of Chicago where I know all the teachers and the principal and everything? Do I want my kids to be? Do I want my kids to play club soccer league from the age 3 all the way to 18? Like these are things that need to be thought about. Like how is my how are my finances going to be when I'm 20 years from now? 20 years from now, you're 34 years old. 34 years old, what does that look like for you? Are you working for yourself? Are you an entrepreneur? And if you are an entrepreneur, what type of business are you going to have? What do you like to do? And that's the problem these days is absolutely no one is thinking about that. And the future's coming. So like, what about free time? Free time and fun. What are you going to do 20 years from now? 20 years from now, you're going to be 34 years old. What are your summers looking like? Are you going to be at the lake in a boat with your 2 kids and your wife or your husband? Are you going to be able to barbecue on that boat? I mean, what do you want? Right?
yeah.
Those are really specific questions that we have to learn to ask ourselves. And not only that, but like to have them written down in front of our face at least once a day.
So what's the importance in having it written down and visualizing, like having it right there visually for you? Do you find that there's any benefit to that?
Oh, it comes to pass. Everything that you write down, that you visually see, that you take the time to look at, it comes to pass. I'll share one with you. Um, uh,
Please.
so I wrote a 5-year project beginning last October of last year. So this would be all the way till October 2024, which is coming, right? It's it's coming quicker than ever, right? So uh, on in my relationships and my the key areas that I have under relationship, I have that my mom and my dad, that I'll have a good relationship with my mom and dad. Little background, I really haven't had much of a relationship with my dad, but it's written down and I see it at least 4 or 5 times a week. And I've been talking to my dad for the last, I would say last 3 weeks, pretty heavy. So, and no, it's not just because I have it written down, but it has came to pass and it is written down. So writing things down, seeing stuff on a consistent basis, yeah, there's very much
So,
power
you know, you kind of mentioned like for 14 all the way to 17-year-olds, they may not be thinking about like 20 years from now, things like that, right? Could you maybe touch on like your adolescence? Like what were you doing at 14, 15, 16, 17? Like what was on your mind?
So it definitely wasn't looking 20 years from now, like where am I going, right? So whenever I was that age, I remember telling myself that um, I didn't want to live past 18. because of the abusive house that I grew up in. Very abusive. Dad always drinking, and mom always trying to defend herself, right? So like when my dad would get home, I would either make sure all my chores are done and get out the house, or I would just stay in my bedroom. So so no, there was no plans whatsoever. But look what that did to my 20s. And I'll get there in a second. But I had literally no plan for my life, and that's why when all these opportunities came by, like all these rabbits that I shouldn't have chased came by, I chased them because I had no direction in life. And what that got me was living in the street lives, um, um, going with gangs, hanging around gangs, being with them, being from their neighborhood. And speaking about gangs, as I would only go around whenever there was a get together, whenever there was a party or whatnot. I just could not stay right there with the gang. And the reason is because I was always by myself. I always wanted to do my own thing. Like I knew that that was not going to get me what I wanted. I didn't know what I wanted, but I knew I was going to make it big, if that makes any sense.
It does. Maybe you can touch on some of the rabbits that you were chasing that you maybe thought was like very valuable in the present moment
Yeah,
back then.
yeah. So drugs was one of them, and all drugs does is it just opens a whole circle of friends that all do drugs. So none of them are healthy. So like, but none of them are healthy. But what sucks about it, it's attractive. So it's attracted to the eye. So that's why I chose to follow that rabbit. Um, and now, fast forward from being 18, 19 years old, as I was, fast forward to my 40s, dude, none
Well,
of those guys. Like none of the guys from the gang, or not many, um, they're still riding bikes, 40 years old, don't even have no cars, living at mom's. Like you're still living at your mom's house. And the thing is because when you go in that circle of certain individuals, they are from the hood. They don't want nothing else but the hood. So that's what they get whenever they hit their 40s is you ain't never moved out the hood. And to speaking to a 17-year-old kids right now, where I'm bad and I know all my shit and I know this and no one's gonna tell me nothing, and no one's gonna you don't know because you ain't been through it. I'm not looking for that individual. If you are him or her that you know it all, I'm not looking for that individual in this meeting right here. I'm looking for an individual that's like, you know what? My dad's not too much in my life. My mom's doing whatever she wants to do. No one believes in me. My teachers say I suck. I can't seem to do anything good. I have no one encouraging me, but I know that I'm better. I know there might be something different out there in the world. That is the one individual I'm looking for. Everyone else can think that they're bad. Everyone else can think that they know it all. Okay, you know, you win. You know it all, right? But I am looking for the ones that, like, you know what? Maybe there's a way out of here, and maybe this guy does. Maybe this guy Nick does know what he's talking about. Because I mean, you don't have to believe me, but I'm speaking some truth for sure. In trouble. One of my friends got in trouble. Ended up doing some things to me. We went back, and a couple months later, I had some charges filed on me. Pretty hard charges. Charges were hard that my lawyer didn't want me to fight them. So I didn't. There was no fighting them. I just tried to get a plea bargain, and I just signed for whatever I could. So whenever I was 24, turning 25, I went to jail, and then I went to prison for 5 years.
yeah.
It's real.
And so like kind of looking back on that, right? Like looking back on that journey, What would you have told yourself?
That I was stupid.
Or, or maybe like if you could tell yourself like before you got into it, like maybe at 18 or 19, what would you have told yourself?
Well, first of all, there was no talking to me because I was right, because I knew it. If I could go back and tell, if I could go back to 18 years old, I would have said, listen to your mom. That's what I would say. Listen to your mom. Listen to if I had any good men in my life at that time, I would have said, listen to who's in your life. Um, and that's the thing is because you, whatever age you are right now, you still need your dad or a male figure in your life. If you don't have a male figure in your life, damn it, go look for one. Like, go look for a male figure for your life, someone to hold you accountable, someone to love on you, someone to pray for you, someone to say it's going to be a better day. You know, um, I would say the best thing, and the best thing for my life the way that it is because of the men in my life and the business coach in my life. Um, the men in my life helped me become a better husband. The men in my life helped me become a better dad. The men in my life allow me to express myself to them, and with no judging. So that's a very big thing is that you do definitely need good men in your life.